Shocking truth, Grandma uncovers nasty secret at her son's wedding, then it's too late. It was a picture-perfect day for the wedding of the year. The sun streamed through the giant oak trees, casting playful shadows on the freshly mowed grass. Guests mingled, laughter echoed, and the scent of blooming daisies filled the air. But beneath the cheerful facade, something sinister lurked just out of sight. Grandma Evelyn, proud matriarch and seasoned eavesdropper, sensed that not all was well. As the classic wedding march began, her gut twisted like a tight knot. The grand floral arch looked magnificent, but why was the bride fidgeting so nervously? Then, there was the groomsman. He moved like a shadow, darting from group to group, whispering. Evelyn felt a prickle at the back of her neck. What was he saying? She watched him closely, biting back a lump in her throat, as he leaned close to her son, Jake. The exchange was quick, too quick. Was it fear she saw in Jake's eyes or something worse? The crowd drowned in melodious strains, but that groomsman's laughter sliced through it like a jagged knife. This was not the ceremony everyone had waited for. Then came the first strange element. In the chaos of wedding bliss, a sudden gust of wind upturned the delicate table linens, revealing a hidden note. It fluttered briefly in the air, then landed at Grandma's feet. She picked it up, heart racing. Her hands trembled as she read the hastily scrawled message, "Run before it's too late." The words burned in her mind, demanding immediate action. Was it meant for her? For Jake? Suddenly, whispers filled the air. A group of guests huddled together, their expressions a blend of shock and disbelief. Evelyn knew she had to act fast. She tried to catch Jake's attention, waving her arms wildly, but he seemed entranced by the taunting groomsman's antics. Her chest tightened as a chilling realization set in. Time was slipping away, and the joyful wedding scene morphed into a ticking time bomb. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Evelyn's heart raced as she caught another glimpse of the groomsman, now heading straight for the cake. The wedding cake was a towering masterpiece, delicate sugar flowers cascading down its sides. Yet, she noticed he pulled something from his pocket. Could it be a knife? Panic surged through her like ice water. Was he about to ruin everything? As she rushed toward him, determined to intervene, she felt like she was running through molasses, each step a battle against an unseen force. But nothing could prepare her for what she would uncover next. Would she be able to protect her son, or was it already too late? Evelyn's feet finally gained some traction as she surged forward, adrenaline pounding in her ears. The laughter of the groomsman turned to a snicker, sending an icy shiver down her spine. He lifted the object from his pocket, and in that heart-stopping moment, the world around her faded. Was it a knife? The sun glinted off the smooth silver handle. As she pushed through the crowd, she could see him grinning, that sinister smile stained with something darker than cake frosting. "You can't ruin this day," she screamed, though her voice barely rose above the din of the music playing. The groomsman turned, his mocking eyes locking onto hers. "And you think you can stop me?" he taunted, raising the blade high as if it were a trophy. Gasps erupted from the guests, followed by a wave of whispers that rolled through the crowd. Evelyn's mind raced. She couldn't let Jake see this, not on his wedding day. Not like this. "Jake!" she shouted again, forcing her voice to rise above the noise. She finally found him, standing rigid, confusion etched across his face as he caught sight of her fierce expression. But the groomsman was faster. He lunged forward, taking aim at the cake, and with one swift motion, plunged the knife into it. A sickening squish echoed through the air as sugar and frosting flew in all directions, and the gasps of the onlookers morphed into a collective scream. Chaos erupted. Guests scrambled back, some shielding their eyes as the once beautiful cake splattered, leaving behind a mess of cream and shreds of paper-thin fondant. Yet, as the groomsman pulled the knife from the cake, slipping on the gooey mess, he fell. The weapon flew from his hand, sliding across the grass. In that briefest of moments, Evelyn seized her chance. She rushed toward the fallen knife, her heart hammering in her chest. Gritting her teeth, she snatched it up, her fingers trembling around the cold metal. But there was no turning back. The groomsman, now recovering from his fall, locked eyes with her again, rage and humiliation burning in his gaze. "You've just crossed a line, old lady," he snarled, getting to his feet with an unnerving calm that chilled Evelyn to her core. She backed away slightly, gripping the knife tightly. "You need to leave the wedding. Now." The authority in her voice surprised even her. Laughter erupted again, this time mixed with a buzz of speculation about her courage. Did they see her as a hero, or just a crazy grandma defending a ruined cake? He stepped closer, the crowd parted, public curiosity turning to uneasy dread. "You just don't get it, do you? This isn't just a wedding." His words dripped with malice, and Evelyn braced herself. "What do you mean?" she demanded, emboldened by the looks of her family and friends rallying behind her. He hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face. "Let's just say, it's about to get really interesting." With that, he turned on his heel, slipping through the crowd like an apparition, leaving nothing but whispers and wide-eyed stares in his wake. The tension hung thick in the air as Evelyn stood, still gripping the knife, pulse racing, body tense. What had he meant? Why was this wedding tied to something so sinister? She turned to Jake, who stood as pale as a ghost, still processing the chaos. Then, from the corner of her eye, she noticed something beneath the wrecked cake. As she leaned down to investigate, her heart sank. Buried in the remains, a familiar ring gleamed, one that should have been on the bride's finger. This was just the beginning, and Evelyn knew it. The real question nagged at her: who else was wrapped up in this web of deception? Just as she reached for the ring, a loud commotion erupted from the other side of the tent. Panic surged as more guests began to shout. Evelyn's breath caught. Whatever was happening was far from over. Evelyn's heart raced as she whipped around, still clutching the knife, its blade catching glimmers of sunlight as if it were a beacon of danger. The chaos had transformed into a whirlwind. Guests shouted, a few were crying, and children cried somewhere far off. She glimpsed Jake again, his brow creased with worry, his eyes darting around the tent, searching for answers. What now? She stood frozen, the ringing in her ears swallowing the noise around her. Then, she saw a flash of movement beyond the crowd. The groomsman. He was slipping through the throngs, his dark hair bobbing like a shadow. What was he planning? Evelyn. Jake's voice cut through the din, a desperate lifeline. What is going on? What did he mean? I don't know. She returned, the tremor in her voice betraying the fear clawing at her throat. But we need to find that groomsman. And the bride, where's Sarah? As if answering her unspoken fear, a piercing scream erupted from behind the cake. It was Sarah's voice, choked and terrified. Evelyn's entire body turned to ice. Without a second thought, she bolted towards the sound, weaving through the crowd, knife still in hand. Every step felt heavy, as if she were wading through molasses, the crowd parting instinctively before her. Fear pulsed in her veins. Was Sarah okay? What if that man was after her next? Evelyn pushed aside a cluster of guests, her eyes locking onto the bride, who stood frozen near the makeshift bar, her gown splattered with frosting, fear etched on her face. Beside her, the groomsman towered like a vengeful specter, his arm raised again, the knife he had used before now glinting ominously in his grip. Get away from her! Evelyn shouted, adrenaline surging as she rushed toward them. Don't you get it? The groomsman hissed, his eyes wild with a frenzy that seemed to infect the space around him. This wedding is just the beginning. Someone has to pay for what was taken. He surveyed the crowd as if searching for something or someone. With a sudden burst of bravado, Sarah shouted back, "What do you want from us?" Her voice wavered, but there was an edge of defiance in it. Evelyn could see the tension twisting in the air, thick enough to choke. She stepped in between Sarah and the groomsman, knife raised. "You're outnumbered. You have to leave." A flash of irritation crossed his face, followed by a manic grin. Outnumbered? Not for long. He ducked sideways, slipping away from Evelyn's reach, weaving through the frightened guests. It was like he was leading a game of predator and prey. "Jake!" she called, her voice breaking. "We need to restrain him, he's dangerous." Before she could react, the groomsman lunged towards a side table, grabbing a champagne bottle. In one swift motion, he shattered it against the edge, the glass exploding like fireworks. Shouts grew louder as shards flew, and he swung the jagged edges menacingly, eyes livid with madness. "Stop!" Jake's voice thundered, loud and commanding, breaking through the confusion as he stepped forward, hands raised. "Don't do this." Everyone watched on, frozen in horror, the atmosphere thick with dread and confusion. Evelyn's heart pounded louder than ever. What was this wedding turning into? What darkness lay hidden behind affable smiles and toasts of joy? Then, from the corner of her eye, she noticed something else beneath the table, a small, folded piece of paper. It poked out like a secret begging to be uncovered. As she reached for it, time slowed, and the weight of decisions hung heavy in the air. What if this changed everything? Suddenly, the screams reached a fever pitch. Desperation clawed at her insides. Would she uncover the truth before it was too late? Just as she grasped the paper, a loud crash echoed. The tent's structure shuddered as if the very earth were shaking under the weight of tension. Evelyn's breath caught. What now? The reality of the moment pulsed in her chest. The groomsman glanced around, his expression shifting to pure panic, eyes darting. And then came a voice, a familiar voice, yet heavy with foreboding. "Just let it go, Evan. You don't know what you're getting into." Chills danced down Evelyn's spine. What had she just become entangled in? Who was this shadow that stepped back into the frame, raising more questions than answers? The layers of deception felt ready to unravel, but at what cost? Evelyn's fingers tightened around the paper, the edges biting into her skin. The familiar voice sent her heart racing even faster. Who was Evan? And why did the man with the knife seem so unsettled? "Step away from the bride, Evan." Jake shouted again, but his voice was swallowed by the chaos that erupted around them. People began to tear away, frantically searching for exits as panic spread like wildfire. The groomsman glanced up, eyes wild and searching. "Stay out of this, Jake. You don't understand the cost." He waved the broken bottle menacingly, glass glinting viciously in the afternoon light. "Is this about revenge?" Sarah's voice trembled, but she stood her ground, defiant despite the trauma. "What do you want with us? We haven't done anything to you. Is that what you think?" The groomsman laughed, a harsh, jagged sound. "You think you're innocent? Just look around. This celebration hides so much." Evelyn's mind raced. What hidden darkness was this man speaking of? What could possibly be worth so much chaos? "Evelyn, help!" A voice cried above the din, and her eyes darted to the side. It was an older woman, trembling as she pushed through the crowd. Evelyn recognized her as Sarah's mother, her eyes wide with fear, her hands shaking. "Get somewhere safe!" Evelyn shouted, trying to move, but her feet felt glued to the ground. Evan's eyes flicked to Sarah's mother. "She knows. Your whole family knows. You've all played a part." His voice oozed fury and betrayal, and Evelyn felt each word pierce through the air like a dagger. Suddenly, he lunged, leaning heavily towards Sarah's mother, but Jake was quicker. He barreled forward, grappling with the groomsman, blocking his advance. The two men tumbled to the ground, the broken glass clattering sharply as the struggle ensued. "Get the knife!" Evelyn shouted, but the noises drowned her out, voices of terror blending with the sound of a frantic crowd. She could barely stay focused, her heart a drum in her chest. In a flash of madness, the groomsman threw Jake off him and turned, but this time, Evelyn was ready. She rushed forward, the knife raised high. The moment felt eternal, a heartbeat that thudded in her ears as she prepared for the confrontation. "Evelyn!" Jake yelled, panic coating his words. "Don't do it." But there was no time. The groomsman's hand moved in a blur, reaching for another weapon, a nearby tray, his fingers grasping at a bottle of wine as he swung it toward her. Evelyn dodged, feeling the rush of air as it barely missed her head. The force made her stumble, and she caught herself just in time to confront him again. The ballroom felt impossibly small as chaos roared around them, shadows flickering like memories. "What is happening?" Someone screamed from the back. She couldn't think. This was no longer about the wedding. Layers of secrets threatened to suffocate her, and as she caught a glimpse of Sarah watching in horror, the reality struck hard. If they didn't stop him now, everything could fall apart. With a surge of determination, Evelyn lunged forward, tackling Evan to the ground. The knife slipped from her fingers, clattering away. Time froze, silence fell heavy around them. In that instant, she caught a glimpse of the paper in her pocket again. Something was scribbled in hasty strokes, but now hadn't been the time to read it. But then, just as she wrestled for control, that voice echoed again, "You think this is over? You have no idea what's coming." What did that mean? As the crowd began to regain its composure, confusion swirling with lingering terror, Evelyn felt a shiver creep down her spine. The groomsman's eyes were locked onto something in the crowd, filled with a mix of dread and anticipation. Something was coming, and whatever it was far from over. What other secrets were about to surface out of this chaos? Evelyn's breath came in ragged gasps as she fumbled to get her bearings. The air thick with fear and desperation choked her, almost as much as the weight of Evan's words. What did he mean by, "You have no idea what's coming"? The crowd, still shaken and murmuring, edged back, searching the room with panicked eyes, a shroud of uncertainty hanging over them all. Jake struggled to his feet, his chest heaving, face flushed with adrenaline after the wrestling match with Evan. He quickly surveyed the room, spotting the knife that had slipped away during the scuffle. "Evelyn! We need to get out now," Jake urged, but she felt frozen in place. She couldn't shake the feeling of impending doom. Evan, still pinned beneath her hold, managed to twist his body, his breath hot against her cheek. "You really think you can stop this?" He spat, desperation lacing his voice. "They'll come for you, all of you." Evelyn shook her head, her mind racing with images of the chaos, the people clawing for the exits, the terror etched on Sarah's face. What could be so dire that it warranted a spectacle like this one? Before she could respond, Evan's eyes turned, a flicker sparking within. He wasn't looking at her anymore but at the crowd behind them. "You think you're safe?" he echoed cruelly. Evelyn turned just in time to see two figures emerge from the side doors, moving with a predatory grace that sent chills down her spine. Security guards? More threats? Her heart pounded like a drum, each beat drowning out the noise around her. The pairs of eyes scanning the room were cold and determined, instantly bringing the chaos back to life as they moved into position, revealing themselves as undercover officers. Evaluating the scene, they raised their radios with an eerie calm. "We need backup. Suspect is engaging." Jake's hands gripped her shoulders tightly. "What's happening, Evelyn?" "They're after him," she shouted, her mind a swirl of panic and disbelief. The two officers moved in closer, fanning out as they advanced toward Evan. One raised his weapon. "Put your hands up. You're under arrest." Evan's laughter echoed amidst the rising tension. "You think this is just about me?" he shouted, his voice booming and filled with manic energy. "You're all part of a game much larger than you." Evelyn's gut twisted painfully, she needed answers fast. Shaking free from Jake's hold, she knelt low, scanning the floor for the knife. The adrenaline coursed through her, making the world a blur. When she spotted the blade's glint, hope flared briefly in her chest. "Evelyn, don't!" Jake yelled, panic apparent in his tone, but behind that urgency was a flicker of something else. Was it fear for her, or fear of what might happen next? "Listen to him," Evan sneered, directing his rage at Jake. You've all kept the skeletons buried for too long. But now, it's time for the truth to come out. The noise in the room crescendoed again as whispers spread like wildfire, people trying to comprehend the gravity of the situation. The officers moved closer, their eyes locked on Evan, who suddenly lunged again as if to escape. Get back! An officer shouted, his voice slicing through the noise as he reached for his taser. Evelyn's heart dropped. This could end in chaos. In that moment of chaos, she felt a fierce need to uncover the mystery behind Evan's warning. The pain of not knowing clawed at her. What did he mean about the secrets? Why did it feel as though the ground beneath her was shifting? But as the chaos unfolded, one thought drilled into her mind. She couldn't let this man go without discovering the truth. As tension reverberated between them, Evan's eyes met hers, clouds of fury and something else, fear, surging behind them. Whatever you do, don't listen to him, Jake cautioned, anxiety thickening the air. Just then, Evan's voice screeched above the rising din, wait until you find out who's really pulling the strings. They'll come for you, and it won't end here. Evelyn's heart pounded harder than ever. She had to know. Whatever secrets lurked beneath the surface, she could feel them creeping out, ready to explode. The crowd's fear deepened with every second. What secret was Evan hinting at? And who were those threatening shadows lurking in the chaos? Would they finally unveil the truths that would change everything? Evelyn's heart raced, each beat igniting a mix of fear and determination. The officers stood poised, but behind them, the crowd pulsed with anxiety, faces contorting in horror as Evan's words sprawled in the air like dark smoke. What strings was he talking about? Who was pulling them? Suddenly, the tension in the room cracked like a fragile shell. One officer shouted again, step back. This is your last warning. Evan's laughter rang hollow, sending chills down Evelyn's spine. You think you can just arrest me? You have no idea what's at stake. You'll regret this. He pushed off the floor, scrambling to his feet. In one swift motion, he threw a chair, crashing it against the nearest officer, who barely had time to react. Get him. Don't let him escape. Jake shouted, rushing forward, but the chaos erupted into screaming and shoving. People surged toward the exits like a herd of terrified animals, and suddenly, Evelyn was lost in the throng, her vision blotting out from the swirling bodies. Evelyn! Come back! Jake's desperate voice pierced through the commotion, but she was drifting, pulled along by the current of hysteria. The two officers were struggling to gain control, barely catching Evan as he hurled himself toward the crowd, eyes wild. He let out a primal yell that reverberated through the hall. You'll all know the truth. You'll wish you hadn't pushed the secrets away. Evelyn's pulse raced. Secrets? What did he mean? The very air seemed to thrum with tension as she pushed her way through the bodies, desperate to catch a glimpse of the chaos unfolding. She could barely make sense of the scene. Jake caught in a scuffle with one of the officers, people screaming, others ducking, chaos erupting in a wave of fear and confusion. Then, through the tumult, she spotted a flash of silver, her knife. It lay forgotten, glinting like a beacon of hope amid despair. With sheer instinct, she lunged for it, skills she didn't know she possessed taking over as she pulled it into her grip. Evelyn. Jake's voice wove through the noise, frenzied and urgent. What are you doing? I need to find out what he meant. She shouted back, the steel feeling both empowering and terrifying in her palm. In that instant, Evan turned his gaze back toward her, a manic grin spreading across his face. See? You're starting to understand. It's all a game, a means to an end. He pointed toward her with a gnarled finger. And you've just picked your side. The officers struggled onward, attempting to subdue Evan, now slipping further into the crowd, his figure a wilting shadow. Evelyn didn't know how, but the danger felt real, and she couldn't just stand by. The crowd pushed and shoved, and chaos seemed to cling to the air like smoke. Evelyn. Don't listen to him. He's trying to manipulate you. Jake's shout came through again, but the urgency rolling through her veins drowned out every word. She stepped closer to where the officers were closing in, her heart pounding. Secrets, game, truth, every word echoed in her mind as she tried to piece it together. What did he know? What could he reveal that would change everything? Just then, her world narrowed to a sliver. Evan made a final desperate push, grabbing the arm of a bewildered onlooker. Under the weight of fear, she felt a surge. She couldn't let him escape, to unravel whatever dreadful truth lingered just beyond reach. In a heartbeat, as panic exploded in a final crescendo, she sprang forward. Would she confront him? Or would she lose him forever to the fray? Evelyn. Jake warned again, his voice thick with dread. Just trust me. She cried, lunging through the abyss of bodies, her thoughts spiraling, desperately seeking the answers that could shatter the very fabric of their reality. The knife's cool grip felt reassuring, but as she pushed further into the chaos, she struggled to breathe, her heart racing, ready for the answer that might change everything. But as the last scream echoed through the hall, a thought flickered through her mind. What if the truth she uncovered was more horrifying than she ever imagined? Could she bear it? Evelyn's world hung in the balance, waiting to descend into darkness or clarity. Would she grasp the truth in time, or was it already slipping away? Evelyn surged through the crowd, her breath hitching in her throat as she caught glimpses of Evan's crazed eyes darting about. Every step brought her closer to the chaos he spun, that elusive truth swirling just out of reach. The knife settled heavily in her palm, a reminder of her determination, yet also an anchor of the darkness that might lie ahead. Stop him! Shouted one of the officers, desperation oozing through his voice. Don't let him get away. But the crowd had turned into a storm, its rage and fear twisting into a tidal wave, dragging her further into chaos. Evan, slipping past desperate hands, caught her gaze for a fleeting moment. Are you really going to side with the lies? He shouted, his words slicing through the mayhem like the blade in her hand. Find me if you dare. The truth is out there, but will you dare to seek it? Adrenaline surged with every pounding heartbeat. As bodies shifted and twisted, she fought against the human tide. Jake's frantic cries echoed in her ears, but a sudden clarity pierced through her fog of confusion. What if Evan wasn't the monster they had all painted him to be? What if there was more? Then she spotted him, a flash of white against the dark chaos. Evan darted through the exit, and without thinking, she raced after him, ignoring Jake's warning calls. The world outside exploded into broader daylight, sharp and blinding amid the oppressive tension she had just escaped. The alley was narrow, the walls closing in. She could hear the distant sound of sirens now, growing closer, racing toward the scene of chaos she hoped to escape. But Evan was fast, darting down the alleyway, disappearing into shadows. Evelyn, wait. Jake's voice broke the tightness in her chest, yet she could feel the pull of answers drawing her deeper. She couldn't let him just vanish, not before she discovered what secret he might hold. She rounded the corner, adrenaline pushing her forward. The alley echoed with the sounds of their footsteps, hers relentless, his somehow elusive. She didn't even notice the shift of the light until she was in a grim part of the city, the street looking desolate, filled with fragmented memories etched in graffiti and decay. Then she spotted him. Evan was leaning against a graffiti-stained wall, panting, his wild hair sticking to his forehead. Relief and fury crashed over her in equal measure. What is it? She demanded, knife raised, heart hammering behind her ribs. What are you talking about? What truth do you have? His grin was all teeth, a snarl of exhilaration and madness. You think you're prepared for what I'm about to confess? He asked, his voice low and taunting, echoing off the grimy walls. You don't even know how deep this goes, how many lives are woven into this tangled web. Your precious life? It's tangled too, don't you see? Chills crept down her spine as she took a cautious step closer, knife glinting in the slivers of light. Get to the point, Evan. His expression shifted, seriousness settling deep in his gaze. It involves you, Evelyn, your family, your secrets, and a darkness that's been waiting, lurking just beneath the surface. The world screeched to a halt, the weight of his words crashing down around her. Memories unwound in her mind, each one binding the string of her existence tighter. What do you mean? But before he could respond, a cacophony of sirens shattered the fragile moment, the blare growing louder, and she felt a thrill of panic grip her once more. They didn't have much time. Tell me now. She pressed, her voice trembling. He stepped back, shadows stretching around him as he smirked. They're coming for me, but they're coming for you too. The truth is already chasing you down. Evelyn swallowed hard, confusion thickening her thoughts. What had he unleashed? What hidden truths lay just beyond her grasp? As she felt the footsteps of authority closing in, her mind raced. What dark history connected them all? And would she ever truly know the secret before it consumed her? Jake's frantic shouts echoed back, but all she could focus on were Evan's last words, hanging ominously in the air. The truth was closer than she ever expected, but would the revelation save or destroy her? Evelyn hesitated. Was she ready to learn the real truth, or was it too late to turn back now? The siren's wail grew deafening, like a predator closing in on its prey. As confusion swirled like smoke, Evelyn felt the knife tremble in her grip. Evan's words echoed in her mind, the truth is already chasing you down. What truth? The grip of dread twisted her stomach as she felt the world around her pulsate with urgency. Evelyn. Jake's voice crashed over her like a wave. He was storming into the alley, wild-eyed with desperation. You have to come back. This isn't safe. We need to know. She snapped, cutting him off. You don't understand. I need to hear him out. Evan's grin widened as he watched their tension unfold, a twisted joy dancing in his eyes. See, you're trapped in this web, Evelyn. No matter how hard you fight, the truth will find you. What do you know about my family? She demanded, weaving through the chaos of her emotions. Anger and fear coiled into a burning determination. Tell me what you know. The darkness in Evan's expression morphed into something more profound, a flicker of grim sadness. It's not just about your family, it's about what they've done. The sacrifices made to keep you safe. The lies that built your perfect little world. And now, those lies are unraveling. Stop. Jake bellowed, stepping forward, hands raised in a plea. Stop this madness. You're just trying to confuse her. The sirens blared closer, slicing through the heavy air as shadows shifted. Evan's demeanor changed as he leaned closer, urgency radiating from him like heat. If I don't get out of here, you may never get your answers, Evelyn. It's bigger than you can imagine. A surge of desperation flooded her veins. I can't lose you again. Is this why you did everything, why you were framed? To protect me? Evan's eyes flickered with something human, a moment of vulnerability woven into the mania. You need to let me go, you need to choose your path. You want to know the truth, but you don't know how ugly it is. Then tell me. She shouted, voice cracking under the weight of the moment and the chaos around them. He took a step back, the shadows swallowing him further as the sounds of approaching footsteps thundered in the distance. It's not just my life at stake, Evelyn. It's yours, too. His eyes locked onto hers, fierce as lightning. You're already a part of this darkness. It's in your blood. Her heart hammered, confusion thrumming violently in her chest. In my blood? What does that mean? Time's running out. Evan hissed, glancing toward the alley exit, fear clawing at his face. You must decide. Follow me or stay and let them take you. Evelyn. Jake called, panic dripping from his voice. What are you doing? We need to go. Evelyn's heart twisted between the two paths laid out before her, caught in a dilemma that felt impossible. Follow Evan, the tangled truth lurking ahead, or cling to Jake and the safety he offered? Please, Evelyn, Jake begged. We can figure this out together. She could practically feel the air shift as time stretched thin. But what if I need to know? What if this is the only chance? With another glance at the shadows closing in, she felt the darkness pulling her in, her instincts screaming to uncover what truly lay beneath the lies. In that fragile moment of indecision, the choice loomed larger than herself. The weight of possibility hung heavy, teetering on the edge of desperation, but just as she opened her mouth to speak, a loud crash echoed from the entrance of the alley. Authority and chaos surged in like a wave, and she felt the net of consequences tighten around her. Evelyn took a breath, the time for choices slipping away. Standing on the cusp of truth and safety, her eyes locked onto Evan's. Which way would she go? And when the dust settled, would she still be standing? The sirens wailed, echoing through the streets, an ominous reminder that time was not on her side. The crash reverberated through the alley, shaking Evelyn to the core. Lights flooded the space, sharp beams piercing through the growing darkness and illuminating the scene like a grotesque stage. She could see uniforms rushing, batons at the ready, as men and women spilled into the chaos. There was no more time to think. Evelyn. Jake's voice shrieked over the din of shouting officers, urgency clawing at its pitch. We need to go. Now. Her heart raced as Evan shifted, a panicked duck behind a nearby trash bin. It was a dance of shadows that felt disorienting. The urgency in Jake's voice reverberated in her chest, but the magnetic pull of Evan's truth was like a dark tide pulling her deeper into an unknown sea. Don't just stand there. Jake urged, a rush of adrenaline pushing him closer. You have to choose. The alley became a battleground, and Evelyn felt as if she were standing on a precipice, teetering over the edge. The truth, whatever it was, started to dawn on her. It glimmered tantalizingly in the distance, just out of reach. She needed answers, yet the thought of what might surface was terrifying. Evan shot her a knowing glance as he pressed back against the wall, urgency painted across his features. It's now or never, Evelyn. You have to trust me. Trust him? The word clung to her like a heavy blanket, suffocating and warm. She wanted to scream, to tear the feelings apart like strong fabric. She felt torn between the brotherly warmth of Jake, who had always been there, and Evan, who carried shadows that whispered secrets about her very existence. Evelyn. Jake pleaded again, each syllable crashing against the sirens that wailed like desperate ghosts. You can't just throw your life away. But as she looked at Jake, she saw something she had ignored for far too long: fear and resolve etched deep into his features, a bond forged in both kindness and limitation. Could he really help her understand the storm brewing inside her? Or would he hold her back? Evelyn, they're coming. Evan hisses, urgency dripping from his words like sweat from his brow. Without thinking, she sprinted toward him, legs fueled by desperation. The sound of footfalls, sharp and hurried, chased after her like an echo of her own heartbeat. In that split second, the sirens were drowned out by the thunder of truth colliding with safety. Time warped around her. As she reached Evan, his hands grasped her arms firmly, his grip both grounding and alarmingly urgent. You have to go with me. There's no time to explain, but I promise. Suddenly, an officer's shout cut through the air, crisp and commanding. Drop the weapon. She froze, the world narrowing to focus on the glint of her knife, still clutched in her trembling hand. The blade seemed to pulse, the weight of it heavier than it had ever been. Make a choice. Evan hissed, voice rising against the encroaching storm of chaos. Join me or get captured. In that pivotal moment, fear twisted in her gut, and she felt the weight of all the lies and secrets pressing against her chest like a boulder. What if she was meant to step forward? What if the truth lit a path that no one else could see? As the first officer broke through the narrow gap, she acted. The decision exploded from her mind into motion. She dropped the knife, its clatter lost amid the noise, and lunged into the shadows with Evan. But as they dashed deeper into the unknown, Evelyn glanced back at Jake. His eyes bore into hers, a mixture of betrayal and horror etched across his face. The darkness swallowed her whole, leaving her breathless as questions roared in her mind like a raging tempest. What truth lay ahead? Would she still recognize herself when the light finally broke through? As they rounded the corner into the night, Evelyn felt a shiver run down her spine, knowing that whatever lay ahead would change everything. The echo of sirens faded behind them, but in the depths of the alley, there was a flicker of something darker joining their escape. What awaited her in the shadows? And how far would she be willing to go to uncover the truth? Evelyn and Evan ran, the chaotic world behind them fading into an indistinct blur. Sharp breaths rushed from her lungs, adrenaline pumping through her veins like wildfire. They ducked into an abandoned building, its shattered windows making the shadows dance in the fading light. The air inside was stale, thick with dust and uncertainty. What now? She gasped, pressing her back against the cool, crumbling wall. Evan's face was a mix of desperation and elation. Now we get to the truth before they find us. But you need to understand you're part of this, Evelyn. More than you know. His eyes were wild with a feral energy that made her pulse quicken. How? What do you mean? Her voice trembled, caught between fear and a flicker of hope. Could he really have answers? Our families are linked, he pressed, stepping closer, urgency twisting his words. Years ago, something happened. Something that made them lie to protect us. But those lies? They're crumbling. Evelyn shook her head, disbelief swirling with an aching need to know. You're saying my family? My life? It's all a facade? Yes. The wedding? It wasn't just a celebration. It was a trap meant to keep us separate. They thought if we didn't find each other, we'd be safe. His face dropped, genuine fear etching deep lines across his brow. They're coming for us, Evelyn. They want to silence the truth. Suddenly, the weight of his words wrapped around her like chains. Panic clawed at her throat. What are we supposed to do? Trust me. He urged, taking her hand and pulling her deeper into the shadows. There's a safe house nearby. It's where we can figure this out. Unsure but determined, Evelyn moved forward, weaving through the debris. The flickers of their past danced around her like ghosts. Could she really trust him? The question echoed, but her heart craved answers. They slipped through broken doors and cracked walls, footsteps quiet as they navigated a maze of forgotten memories. Lights blinked in the distance, sirens still echoing like a haunting melody behind them. No turning back now, Evan paused, his eyes fixed on her. Whatever you find out, you have to be ready. This is bigger than us, bigger than the lies. Just tell me, she pleaded, her voice a whisper now, raw with uncertainty. What was done? His expression darkened, shadows playing across his face. Your father made a deal, a dangerous one. He wanted to protect you from our family secrets. But now those secrets threaten everything, and the ones who kept us apart. They'll do anything to keep it buried. As they stepped into a dimly lit room, the air felt electric, the walls seemed to pulse with a history Evelyn could barely grasp. Boxed memories lay around her, photographs covered in dust and time, each one a piece of the puzzle. Find it, Evan urged, his voice steady now. Find the one that shows us the truth. With trembling fingers, Evelyn sifted through photographs, her heart racing with every snapshot that passed. A young girl playing with a boy, the sunlight warming their smiles, a moment stolen from time. A gathering of family, faces familiar yet distant, laughter frozen in a moment forever marked by intimacy and dread. Then she found it, a photograph, taken inside a large house filled with family gatherings. All smiles, faces alight with joy. But in the corner of the picture was another figure, a shadowy presence looking on, their face obscured. That's my father. Evelyn gasped, her world spinning as she recognized the man in the shadows. Who is that? Evan leaned closer, the gravity of the moment pressing down on them both. I don't know. But I've seen that figure in other pictures too. That person is the key. Before she could respond, a crash echoed from the other side of the room. They whipped around, hearts racing, frantic breaths mingling with the dust that filled the air. It's them. Evan hissed, urgency pulsing through him. We need to move, but it was too late. A group of figures emerged from the shadows, faces of family, friends, all twisted in cold reveals. Jake stood at the lead, a haunted look on his face that made Evelyn's heart sink. Evelyn, no. He yelled, terror coating his voice as he rushed forward. Evan stepped in front of her, a protective fierceness surging through him. Stay back. You don't understand. But Jake's eyes were wild, confusion mixing with anger. You think you can just run away? You're in way over your head, Evelyn. He's not safe. The air went thick, tension boiling over as the crowd closed in. You can't keep the truth from us, Evan shouted, stepping closer, gaze fierce. This is about more than today. This impacts everyone. Evelyn's chest tightened, emotions crashing like waves against her resolve. Jake, please. They've kept me in the dark, in chains. There's so much I need to know. But Jake's expression turned hard, anguish etched deep. You don't even know what you're saying. This isn't about freedom, it's about danger. She felt trapped between two worlds, each one pulling her apart until she realized one undeniable truth: the lies could only hold her for so long. This moment was pivotal, the tension crackling in the air, the truth waiting just beneath the surface. The echoes of their past resonated powerfully. If she didn't face it now, they might lose everything. Trace the blood that binds us, she shouted, voice rising in defiance. If we don't confront the truth, we're only hiding from ourselves. Silence enveloped them, every breath felt significant, the gravity anchoring their souls together in this moment of reckoning. One choice hovered, the path laid bare at their feet, but the outcome eluded them all. As Jake turned, confusion shifting to a sliver of understanding, Evelyn knew this was only the beginning. Together, we can confront whatever darkness awaits, she vowed, meeting Evan's fierce gaze, strength igniting between them. A silent accord formed as they turned back to the shadows cloaking their past, ready to unearth the truths buried beneath years of lies. Let us finish this, Evan said, determination woven through his tone. Evelyn nodded, her heart steady now. They would fight for the truth, whatever it was. And in that fight, she would finally choose her own destiny: the darkness or the light. They pressed onward into the abyss, ready to uncover the secrets that would set them all free. And as Jake followed, heart pounding, hope igniting like a beacon, this was the moment they would all have to face themselves. The answers awaited, and so did the reckoning. What awaited them in the echoes of their past? The truth might finally be a price worth paying. Now it was time to confront their future together. And to embrace the unknown. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss any more exclusive content. This is the moment to show your support for the channel. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this ending. Your engagement makes all the difference.